And greetings. This is episode 9 of Learning Business Central Development from Scratch. And it has been a few months since the last episode. I apologize for that. Things have been rather busy the last few months, but I have had several requests to resume the series, so that's what we're going to do on this episode. And I initially tried to have one episode per chapter early on, but that just didn't work out. Some chapters had a lot of content. Then there were a few interludes where I had to add some more content. So here we are at chapter 9 for episode 5. And greetings to those who are joining live. Okay, so let's take a look at, let's recap, I guess, since it's been 4 months. So this series is based off of the AL for Beginners workbook, or Programming in AL for Beginners is the title. And this workbook was created by Christoph. He's on Twitter at mynavblog. And you can download this PDF here for free at github.com/mynavblog/AL for Beginners. Just standard PDF, free to download, and you can go through this 100-page document and follow along with my video series. So a few notes. This was created, I think, in late 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and things change rapidly with Business Central and all the related technologies. So it will be a good exercise for you to spot things that have changed since Christoph wrote this AL for Beginners workbook. He has wanted to update it, but like everyone and everything in our lives, we are all busy. So I think it's kind of a good exercise because it's like, consider them Easter eggs. There are a few things that have changed or some notes that some details are a little different than when he originally wrote the workbook. So just be on the lookout for those, be aware of them, and if something doesn't work or if you need to do something extra, hey, that's the name of the game, and that is the reality of Business Central development. The change is so fast that you will need to be aware of things changing. Even your code you wrote 2 months ago, you may need to go and update. So, hello everyone, thanks for joining. Okay, so let's just jump in. Now, I did one pass through this and I found a few things, but I may find a few things to discuss on the second pass as we do this. So let's give this a try. Okay, so Studio 4. So here I have, let me get the typing animals off my other monitor. It's pretty distracting. Okay, so here I have the AL for Beginners workbook, Programming in AL for Beginners.pdf. This is chapter 5, and it appears on my viewer to be page 54 in the PDF. So I'm just going to have this open in the browser. Let me make it a little bigger. It's kind of jumpy. Okay. Well, okay, so table extensions and page extensions, and this is a very powerful feature in AL for Business Central, but you have to be careful and prudent, particularly the table extensions. I think page extensions are pretty safe to kind of go crazy on. I don't know of any side effects on those, but table extensions, you will want to be careful. You won't want to create 1,000 table extensions and keep extending and then extend your extensions and go crazy, because there are performance implications to table extensions. Now, those are mitigated partly by new features. I'm forgetting the name of the feature where they selectively load additional fields, but you'll just want to be cautious and prudent and only develop table extensions when it makes sense. Okay, so with that, so we're going to get familiar with type table extension and page extension. We're going to use set filter and set range methods. Find first, find last. Oh, okay. I didn't really see those, but let's give them a try. Understand how to show messages to the user. I did see that. Develop the table extension for the customer table. Develop the new action for the customer card. Okay. So he explains table extensions here. I'm not going to read all this. So you have table extensions, so you can extend a table to adjust properties. You can use table extensions to add fields. You can have triggers on before validate, on after validate. You can add new keys to the table extension. And so this is a note where BC has changed since he wrote this. He says you cannot mix standard fields with your new fields. You can add keys which contain only added fields. And this was true at the time of writing. But, so let's just jump back to Studio 3 here. So BC table keys. What he is saying is with 2020 release wave 2 and earlier, keys in table extension objects can only include fields from the table extension object itself. Excuse me. You could not add new keys to the standard fields on a base table. However, with BC 2021 release wave 1, spring in the US, North America, spring 2021, I think it was April 2021, keys in table extension objects can include fields from the base table object and extension object. However, a single key cannot include fields from both the base table and the table extension. So you can't mix fields in your new key, but you can add new keys to the base tables, and you can still add keys for your table extensions. So in other words, a key must contain fields from either the base table object or the table extension object. You can't mix them or combine them for a composite key, mixing those fields. So you can use the same key name in the table extension unless the key contains fields from the base table object. So if that word salad isn't confusing enough, just here's the URL for the table keys page in the Business Central docs, and just read that a few times. If you're familiar with SQL Server indexes and adding indexes to tables, it should make sense. But in Business Central AL, you have to differentiate between your base table and your table extension fields. You can add keys for both. You just can't mix the fields in your new keys. Okay, so with that, so that was one thing I noticed that was different. I just happened to be aware of that one new addition in 2021 Wave 1. And again, this stuff is changing constantly. So any rule that you read, you need to just be careful and say, when was this written? Let me go look that up and verify that is still the case. Okay, table extension triggers. Similar to code for standard fields, you cannot change code for standard triggers that are in the table. However, you can add code which will be run before or after the standard code. For example, we can add code which will be run when deleting the record. You can use on before delete or on after delete triggers, and we'll see that with the customer table here. Okay, page extension overview. A page extension is an object that lets you modify a standard page. Very, very handy. So let's say we want to add a field to a standard page. That's what we're going to do in this exercise. You can change properties to some extent. You can add controls to a page. You can add actions. You can add triggers. When adding table extensions and page extensions, remember to put your prefix or suffix, or affix as it's sometimes called, to all of your fields, controls, and actions. That is a good thing that I'm learning, or good advice that you should remember. In your extension, you can have only one extension to the standard objects. For example, in the customer list, you can only have one page extension, I believe, in your project. When adding new controls or actions, always use add first or add last positions. And that's because the position of, if you use add after, the position of those objects may change over time. So this field or this page group may change in Business Central next year. They may add or remove fields or change things. And so if you use add after, add before, that may not work. So the recommendation is to use add first or add last. So you're either at the very beginning of those fields or the very end, something to that effect. So, okay. Get records that should be based on filters. Okay, so you can get records, but you may want to use these methods: set range, set filter, find first, find last, find set. And I didn't really dig into these. I just followed the code sample that he had. So we'll see how those are used. Is empty. So he's saying sales line, set range, bill to customer number, or set filter based on GL account. Okay. You can show a message to the user. You can use the method message. You can show an error on the screen for those. For that, you can use error. When you use the error method, then the transaction will be stopped and rolled back. And we will see an example of that. Now, in my testing, the implementation of the error, I would have liked to have seen the error on the field level right away, but that maybe that's possible. But you'll see this particular implementation, I find it's like, oh, it's a little confusing when the error occurs. So there may be a way to trap that event earlier to prevent the user from doing something, but I don't know. We'll see what that looks like and I'll discuss it. Okay. So here's a variable, hello world, just a very simple example of the syntax it looks like. Okay, so let's jump in to extend the customer list. This is the first page, table and page extension I think that we're going to do. So we're going to extend the customer table to add a new field. So let's do that. So over here, I have my VS Code. Let's see if I can fit both of these on the page. Now, I have updated my launch.json. I previously had a Docker container called dev17. I now call that dev18. One moment. Okay, there we go. And what's going on here? Okay. So on the customer page, the user should be able to see the number of bonuses assigned to the customer. That's the customer list page. The user should be able to navigate to a list of bonuses assigned to the customer. This is really cool functionality. And then the second request is it should not be possible to delete the customer if there is any bonus assigned to that customer. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So create a new file, customer.tableextension.al, and okay. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to, in Visual Studio, I'm going to click on my Explorer button, and I'm going to right click, choose new file, right click on my SRC folder where my source is. Okay, new file. And I'm just going to call this customer.tableextension.ext.al. Now, I believe there is a different file naming convention now. I don't remember it, but just be aware that in a real project, you may want to use different file names just to follow a convention. And I've looked into it before. I've already forgotten what it is. So different episode for that. Okay, so you notice that we have some table extension code here. So I'm going to use a snippet. And I have the extension for Waldo's CRS language extension installed in VS Code. So I'm going to utilize that. So I'm going to use table extension table X Waldo. Okay, so I click on that or press enter. And for the ID, you have two options. You can type this ID number, or depending on where you're at in the project, you can just delete the ID, press Control Space, and you see it automatically shows me a recommendation of 50100, which matches what Christoph has in the workbook. So I'm going to choose that. I can then press Tab, and I will type quote MNB customer. I press Tab and extends. Actually, let me, oh gosh, what is the developer? I can't remember the command to, oh, toggle screencast mode. There we go. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to delete that, type customer, and you see the autocorrect, auto-suggest shows up there. And now we're in the field section. So I'm going to do T, this is a table field, so T field Waldo, and my ID is 501, and this will be MNB bonuses, and that will be an integer, and I just tab off of that. And my caption here, let's just change this to match what Christoph has bonuses. And this is a different type of field. So this is not a physical table field because we're doing a table extension, or not because, but in this case, our table extension is going to be a flow field in this case. So we are going to have a field class equal to flow field. And a flow field is not a physical table field. It's like a calculated field. Very cool stuff. Eric Hugard, if you search for Eric Hugard on YouTube, he has a really good introductory video on flow fields. It's something like Business Central Superpower Flow Fields. Very, very cool explanation of how flow fields work. And flow fields use this calculation formula saying, okay, what is this flow field going to return for us? It's almost like a subquery. Equals count MNB bonus header is our table. So go query the MNB bonus header table where customer number equals field number. So we're going to take the number field on this customer list page, on this customer table, and use that number to go do a subquery against our MNB bonus header table, and we're going to do a count. So how many records are there in our MNB bonus header table for this particular customer number? And cool. And let's put a semicolon at the end of that. And because this is a flow field, essentially like a subquery, it is not editable. So that's going to be false. Okay. Okay. So now I think we have created our table extension. So we have extended the customer table. We call this the MNB customer table extension. And we've added one field, which is an integer, and it's called MNB bonuses. It goes out to our MNB bonus header table, counts the number of records for this customer, and returns it. Super simple. So let's save that, and I'm going to close it. Oh, now we have some additional work. Okay, so let me go open that back up. So customer table extension.al, and he is saying we want to add some events here. So this is very different for me as a .NET developer. In the .NET world, I would not put logic in my table definition or my data access layer. I would have logic at a higher level, but AL is a little different. So open the customer table extension, add a new global variable type label. We're going to add text. You cannot delete this on before delete. So let's just see what that looks like. So this is saying, if I try to delete my customer record, if I have MNB bonus records for that customer, do not allow the record to be deleted. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to do a var bonus exists error label. You cannot delete customer %1 because there is at least one bonus assigned. Okay. Period. Semicolon. Okay. Now this is a string literal, as I learned in my first rundown. So I used apostrophe. If you do quotation marks, you will get an error here. And if you hover over that, it says syntax error string literal expected. So it knows you need to use single quotes, not quotation marks, or apostrophe, not quotation marks. Okay, so there is our bonus exists error. Next, we're going to use a trigger called on before delete. And we're going to have a new var, M&B bonus header. That is our record. And I can just press Control Tab for that suggestions to come in. What is this called? Autocorrect, wizard, autofill. I can never remember the name. So I'm going to type M&B bonus header. And now I just press Tab. So the autocorrect, autofill, smart fill, whatever it's called, super cool. So begin. There's our begin end. M&B bonus header dot set range. That's what he explained earlier in this chapter. He is explaining how you can use set range in order to filter your records. So on before delete, I'm going to go grab my bonus header record. Bonus header table essentially, but I'm going to set the record such that I set the range just for this customer number. Okay, so I'm going to pass in the number from this list page and going to filter on the customer number field. And if not M&B bonus, if I can type, M&B bonus header is empty, then, so if our results are not empty, that means we do have bonus records for this customer. Then we are going to throw an error. Bonus exists error. That's our message for this. We're going to pass in the parameter of this customer number. And now this is, for me, coming from the .NET C# world, this %1 parameterized string interpolation type thing, I never used it in .NET or C#. I'm aware of it, but I was never a fan of it because it's like, okay, what's getting substituted in if you have a 1, 2, and 3? How does that work? But I get it. It's pretty simple. I like the newer like C# style string interpolation, I think it's what it's called. So you do something like this, and then you have customer number. So that's how C# did it. But I get that this for me is feels like the old school C# method. But so we're substituting in the customer number in this message, and we're doing that through this parameter that is passed into the error. Okay. So let's say that. Is that it? I think so. So this is the error that's going to occur if we try to delete the customer. It's our on before delete. Okay. So now, what do we got going? So we're going to create a new file for our page extension at this point. This is our table extension. I think we're done here. So let's click on our Explorer and let's do a new file. And we will call this customer list.pageextension.al. And I think extending list pages is super cool. Pages or list pages. The page extensions are super cool. So this will be a page extension. So let's use a snippet, T page extension Waldo. And this one is 50100. This is going to be MNB customer list extends customer list. Okay. And under the layout section, that's where you add fields, modify fields, move fields, I guess. We're going to use the add last because he recommends, the recommendation is use add first or add last. So on the layout of our customer list page, we've got a bunch of fields going across. We're going to add at the very end, the very last field. So add last control 1. Okay, so add at the end of our control 1 repeater control. Let's see what other controls are available. Okay, so we have content, control 1 or fact boxes. So I guess control 1 is the main section of the list page that has those fields. That's what it's called by default. Field, we're going to add a field, MNB bonuses. And you can also use a snippet for this, but I don't know how much value is. T page field Waldo. And so it just adds some squigglies for you. MNB bonuses. MNB bonuses. Application area all. And we're going to have a tooltip. Apostrophe shows number of assigned bonuses to customer, semicolon. Okay, and again, I'm used to the .NET world and C#, and it is wild to just slap a field on a page like this. No data access layer, no logic. So, and if you remember from the prior episodes, the implicit with will be removed in the future, so you must qualify all fields with rec dot. Oops. So this is referred to as the implicit with, I believe. So you have to say, this needs to come from the record, which is the record on this control, I believe, the customer record. So there we go. And this MNB bonuses, of course, that doesn't exist in the customer table. So this is going to come from our page extension, MNB bonuses. Okay, I think that's right. Okay, what's next? We have actions. So in addition to displaying the MNB bonuses, number of bonuses for each customer in our list page, remember, he wanted us to add an action so that we can click on those MNB bonuses. So let's see how to do that. So down here in actions on our page, our customer list page extension, let's add caption, bonuses, application. Am I doing this right? Actions. Oh, nope. Okay. Actions, we need add last. Navigation. It's interesting that the actions needed an add last as well. Okay. Action. MNB bonuses. I think that's our action name. What is that? Yeah. Action name. Okay. Application area equals all. And you'll notice that this is not indented. I can hit enter and it still doesn't indent, but if I press Control S, that automatically reformats that for me. So you don't need to stress on pressing tab. So that's kind of a nice thing. So image equals discount. And I'm not sure, I'll need to look and see if that, what is that? Run object equals page MNB bonus list. That's the page we're going to display. Run page link equals customer number. And that is going to tie to our field number on our MNB bonus list page. Control save reformats. Excuse me. Okay, missing a semicolon. And I have a question in the chat. Where do you get this book? And so at the beginning of the stream, which will be on the published on YouTube at the end of this, this is available on GitHub. So if I go back, this is the AL for Beginners workbook by Christoph. And so github.com, mynavblog/AL for Beginners. And this is available for free. It's a 100-page PDF where you can work through this. Okay, so back to our code. Okay, so now we have added our action so that I believe this is that we can click through from the customer list page to see the bonuses for this customer. So I think we're done. But we haven't published this. So let's go back here. And I think I've intentionally left a few errors in my VS Code project because I haven't touched this since January. So let's close this. I'm going to save this. I'm going to press Control F5 to try and publish this. Now, before I publish, let me just verify where I'm pointing this. Dev 18, I do have a container, a local container, a Docker container called Dev 18. So Control F5. Did that work? Oh. It did work. Okay, I thought I was going to intentionally get an error. You may get an error and you may need to re-download symbols. So to do that, you can press, here, let me just make this larger. You can press F1 and download symbols. So that's something you're always going to need to do before you publish to a new environment. And this should work. If you get an error that your symbols did not download, and let me see if I can get this so that you can see it without my big head. Okay, so you see symbols have been downloaded. If you get some red errors here in the bottom right, then you'll want to check your launch.json. Are you pointing to a Docker container or are you pointing to a BC SaaS sandbox? And are you on-prem or sandbox? Here, I think is what it says. Is this server name correct? Or your environment name, and you need to have a sandbox environment if you're pointing to SaaS. You cannot point to production. So you'll need to go in your BC admin page, make sure you have a sandbox, and if you called it sandbox 1, that needs to be specified here as your environment name. Your launch file will be slightly different for a SaaS sandbox versus a Docker container. And then for Docker, the server instance needs to be BC, and that will match what you see here, BC. Okay, so let's log into my Dev 18 environment just to have that ready. So I have downloaded symbols. I'm going to press well, you can do F1, publish without debugging. You see that's Control F5 is your shortcut. I'm just going to press that shortcut, Control F5 to publish. And we are publishing. And there we go. It takes us straight to the bonus setup page because since this could be a brand new publish, you may not have this set up. So this is a new Docker container that's fresh. I'm going to click on my edit button. Now, I don't yet have my bonus setup number series defined. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on new. I'm going to call this bonus and bonus. Now, one thing you want to remember to do is you want to check this box for default number series. If you do not, you will get an error on your bonus number page when you try to create a new one. So I'm going to click here to create a starting number. Okay, I don't need an ending number or any dates. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to choose my bonus, click OK, and there we go. This is our default bonus number series. So now I can go to the bonuses list page. I have no bonuses set up for any customers. I'm going to click on new. I'm going to tab off. And if you get an error when tabbing off this number field, that means that you don't have the additional code to default from the number series. And this was something that I believe was Christoph forgot to add to the document. So I think it's, I have a video on that. It's chapter 4 addendum, I think it is, where we add the code to default this number for the number series. I'm going to choose a customer, A Datum Corporation, and let's just choose two random start and end dates. Okay, and status is open. And I'm just going to give this a bonus percent of 5%. I don't know what this means, but we're just filling things out. So there we have a bonus for the A Datum customer. Cool. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we just did. Customer extension, customer list page extension, and the customer table extension. So I want to go to customers and I want to go to the list page. Now, there we go. So now we have our customer list page. It looks the same, but remember, we use the add last keyword. And if we scroll clear to the right, there we are. This is our custom field. And this is what you can do with a page extension and table extension. Our table extension created this field called bonuses. It is a flow field that goes out and calculates for each customer how many bonus records do they have. In this case, we see 1. And with our page extension, that allows us to display our custom table extension field here. And so, very cool. So we know that I created 1 bonus record for A Datum Corporation. We see 1 bonus, and I can hover over this. Bonuses shows the number of assigned bonuses to customer. Very cool. Now I'm just kind of curious. There was an icon. Oh, look at that. I'm just curious. Okay, so it doesn't show up here under actions. So it only is a hyperlink is my guess. So I don't know why the icon was present. So that was one question I have. If we go back to the page extension, oh, the image. So you see image discount. I don't know why that is present. I don't know if it has to be or if it's a default or something like that. But I was wondering, is there an image somewhere? And oops, did I just close that? So customers, that's our list page. So the reason I asked that is because if you go into actions here, you see you can have some icons on these actions. And I thought that may be where it shows up. But I don't see bonuses listed here. Now you can add actions here. I'm just not seeing it in this list. But in any event, if I slide over to the right, there is my bonuses, and I can click on this. And that takes me to the bonuses list page, which shows me all bonuses for this customer. Now let's test that. Let's do a new one, and let's tab off to get bonus number 2. Choose customer to 20,000 tray research. And let's choose a different start date and a end date, open, and let's give them a bonus percent of 3. Okay, so interesting. You notice that that bonus did not show up here because we drilled into this from the customer list page. So it looks like it's working. So let's just type bonus. So we go to the bonuses list page without any filters. We see customer 10,000 and 20,000. Okay, so now from the customer list page, if we drill into the first one, we only see 10,000. It's automatically filtering here. See that? There's our customer filter. And then if we click on 20,000, it's filtering on 20,000. So that is the filter that we put on. That's the page link. And if we go back, I don't know if we'll be able to see this. That is the bonus list page. Maybe it's in the bone. Nah, I don't think so. I think that's almost like something that BC is doing automatically for us. Because we're including the customer number in the page link, that is automatically filtering. Look at menu point navigate. Okay, Olaf is saying, let's try the navigate page. Okay, so let's go back here. So I was looking in the actions page thinking that's what, but he's saying, Olaf is saying try navigate. Okay, so it's not showing up here. So there is a way to get an additional menu item here. I don't think that it is present so far. Let's just double check. Navigate, prices and discounts. So yeah, so I was hoping to see that somewhere, and that's where that icon would come in, but it doesn't look to be present at this time. That's okay. But it can be added and you can get extra. Oh, there it is. Look at that. M&B bonuses. It's under related. Okay. So let me just make sure it doesn't show up. So it's under related. And I don't know if we added that earlier in a prior chapter, but there's our M&B bonuses, related M&B bonuses. Very cool. So we can click on that and it takes us to the bonuses list page with no filter. Very interesting. So you see, we don't have a filter here. If I go back to the customer list page, if I click here, I do have a filter that I see. It's a visible filter, I should say. But if I'm on a customer here and I go to related, I can click on M&B bonuses and the filter is not visible. Now I can click on the show system filter. Oh, that's where it is. It's show system filter. That's the difference. Okay, cool. Filter. Filter list by. The filter is automatically visible. But if I go back here, related, M&B bonuses, click on filter, it's a system filter that automatically hides it. So very cool. Slightly different behavior, same result. And there's probably a way to do that from our link as well. I think Jeremy Viska showed me that if I click on here, I could potentially make this filter hidden. So thank you, Olaf, for prompting me to check for that. That's a great suggestion. Now, I don't remember why it's in related. I don't know if we chose that at some point. I don't remember, or if that's kind of automatic. But M&B bonuses is one way, or we've also added a link. And the link is much more convenient, right? Now, what if you say, this is unrelated to the workbook, but what if you say, well, I don't want bonuses here. I want it somewhere else. You can, I believe, go into personalize, and let's see if we can do this. Let's move it. To move this, point and drag it to the point you want it. Okay, so let's move this all the way over here. So there we go. So let's say I want bonuses front and center right next to the customer name. You can do that through personalize. Now, let's see, this is, now I think you can personalize by role center or something like that. I forget. I don't use personalize a lot, but certainly at the individual login level, you can personalize such that bonuses is here. So even though in our code, we said add last, and you saw it was at the very end of that list. Using personalize, a user or an admin can push that field earlier in the list. And maybe if you don't want these other fields, you can hide some of them as well. But there you go. Okay, so Olaf is saying area navigation. Okay, so let's take a look at that. This is a side journey for us, but this is how we learn, right? So let's take a look at area navigation. This would be on the, I don't know if it's on the, let me just search. So area, no results here. Now, can I search? Okay, I don't know how to search all files, but let's try our bonus list page. And he says area navigation. Ah, there we are. Look at that. Okay, so area navigation on the customer card, application area all, image customer, page. Oh, this is on the customer card, bonus list page. So if we go to customer card, and I may be in the wrong place. So if we go to customers, we are in the customer card, navigate, customer, more options, related. Interesting. Okay, so I need to figure that out. The navigation is very cool, but I find it confusing. We've got navigate, we've got customer, we've got actions, we've got related. And so I'll need to understand there's lots going on here. So anyway, I think we have accomplished what this chapter shows, and that is on our customer list page, we have a new field called bonuses, and we can drill in to the bonuses list page. It automatically filters by customer. Now, there's a second thing we did that I forgot. So let's go in here. Let's go to ADatum. You say, well, I no longer use this customer anymore. I want to delete it, which normally I don't do in an ERP system, but let's see what happens. Let's click delete. Delete? Yes. Now, I would prefer to have the error before this point, but there we go. The page has an error. You cannot delete customer 10,000 because there is at least one bonus assigned. And that is because we, on our table extension, added this on before delete trigger. So before BC goes ahead and deletes the record, it says, okay, let me run this code. And it says set range. If it is not empty, if it finds any bonus records for this customer, then raise this error message. You cannot delete the customer. And that's exactly what we saw here. So that is working. Okay, so very cool. And so we've accomplished that. Now, it says press refresh to undo the change. So it's like we didn't attempt to delete it. So that's good. Okay, so Olaf is saying look on our extension to see on the area. Yeah, we have a couple extensions. So I think that's our list page. Bonus. No, it's our page, customer list page extension. We're looking for area. Yeah. So I don't know. That's an entire new, that could be an entire chapter. So my apologies, Olaf. So I'm just bumbling around and we're following the chapter 5. This one was relatively short, so it's relatively easy, but it is. He shows a couple examples of a table extension and a page extension. So it may look like there isn't much there or it's super easy. There's a lot you can do with page extensions, table extensions. So definitely explore more. This is a super cool feature of Business Central and AL, adding table extensions and page extensions. And let me look into the feature. Now, it used to be that there was you were discouraged from adding a bunch of table extensions because of performance reasons. And let's just see. So Business Central table extension performance. And okay. Impact of table extensions. So many people have written about this. Stefano has written about this, and he has actually done tests to add thousands of or several table extensions to see the performance implications. And Saurav Diani has also done this to look at the query impact. And so I'm looking for the feature that they have added to minimize the impact. And gosh, so there is a a feature where you add a keyword to say, only load the fields that I need, essentially. So let's say you have a table with 50 fields and you have 10 table extensions from 10 different people that add 5 fields each. So you have 50 fields base table plus 50 additional fields for all your table extensions. So by default, Business Central used to have to load all 100 fields, and that's a bunch of joins that it has to do. But there is a new keyword that limits the field. It's smart enough to figure out which field it needs, and it only queries the table and table extensions that it needs. And I forget what that is called. It just escapes my brain at the moment. But just be aware of that and dig into that. Okay. So anyway, I think we have accomplished chapter 5. Not too hard. If you have problems, leave a comment below the video on YouTube and I should get it. Just be careful if you include a URL, it'll get filtered and I won't see it. So filter for moderation and it doesn't notify me about those. So anyway, in this chapter summary, in this chapter you understood how to develop pages, page extensions and table extensions. We saw how to display messages and errors to the user. We got familiar on how to filter and retrieve records from the database based on assigned filters. So that was cool. We saw system filters, and then we saw assigned filters as part of the link from the page list, the list page. We developed our first table and page extension, and that's exactly what we saw, bonuses. And we saw we can use personalize to move that column elsewhere because the best practice is to use add first or add last in our page extension so that we're not trying to insert in the middle of the list page referencing a column that may or may not be present in a future release. So that's chapter 5. Very cool. Sai asks, can I make a video later on how to do a task scheduler of installing Docker? So I do have videos very early on. It's like video 1, preparing your development environment on installing Docker. I have separate videos in the I Need Coffee series on how to set up a task scheduler and PowerShell script to automatically create my containers each morning. So I do not touch my PowerShell or my Business Central Docker containers. I have a PowerShell script that runs, so here, Precipio, refresh BC container. So this just runs a PowerShell script, new BC dev container, and every morning I have a brand new Docker container. I have 2 actually, a dev and a test, just in case. And so let's see. So here we go. So I have a full, I think I might have a blog, but I definitely have an I Need Coffee episode on automating the setup of my Business Central containers using this script. And I'm pretty sure I have a blog post with this script on blog.steveendo.com. So if you are not automatically creating your Docker containers, use a script to do it. You shouldn't have to run BC Container Helper constantly. And I choose to dispose all of my containers every morning. Every morning these get overwritten. So I don't want to get attached to containers. They get deleted, recreated every single morning, and I can just always republish my code to them. So with that, that's chapter 5, and feel free to ping me on, here, let me switch over to screen 3. If you have any questions, want to see different videos, or want to chat, you can reach me on these many places. At Steve Endo on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, so feel free to just tweet me or DM me on Twitter. blog.steveendo.com. I don't blog as much anymore because it is so time consuming and tedious to get things right and to research and document blog posts. But I am obviously here on YouTube, youtube.com/steveendo. Comment below any video. and just don't include a URL and I should get notified of that comment. I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/SteveEndo. I don't get as much activity on Twitch, so I don't know how the commenting works, but feel free and watch the videos there. And so with that, enjoy, do some BC/AL coding, go back through the Learning BC Development from Scratch playlist on YouTube. I tag all the videos there for that playlist. So this is episode 9 of that series. And enjoy, code something.